Everything is fine here on Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. I'm Mike flying solo today, here to talk some Star Wars with all you listeners out there. As a reminder, I am live, so please bring me your questions, comments, opinions, everything to our YouTube live chat where we're streaming right now. So if you have anything for me, let me know. I'll do my best to follow along. It's over here. So since it's just me, it's harder to pay attention to the actual chat. Since it's just me talking. If I have others, and I can kind of have time to peek over a little bit to go through some of those questions. But yeah, so I don't think we'll be on too long today. I'm just going to run through a couple news things and might talk a little bit about Visions. I was hoping to get some of the other guys on today to talk more thoroughly through Visions, but things just didn't work out today. So hopefully next week we will bring you our more in-depth, not really recap, but opinions on Volume 2 Visions. But I will give you a little bit of a teaser later on in today's episode about my own feelings of it. But yeah, just also, just as a heads up, so my wife is currently on week 36 of our pregnancy. So Tuesday marked the 36-week mark, and that means that baby can come pretty much any time now. So I'm going to have to be a little more, well, I should say I probably won't be available as much for recording. We're still going to, target our every Wednesday recordings and then drop everything on Mondays for everyone to listen. But it's just going to be, there might be some Wednesdays that I have to miss, and we might not be able to release some, more so just at the start. Once, we get transitioned, once baby comes, then, I'll be able to figure out a schedule. But it's already tough, with a full-time job. And then I have softball on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. And then I have this recording for podcast on Wednesday nights. And then not to mention I have to edit and everything. So I'm going to be a little more sparse on time when baby comes. So we'll just have to play it by ear. But like I said, the plan is still to bring new episodes or record new episodes every Wednesday and then bring it to all of you on Mondays. So stay tuned on that. But yeah, excited and nervous. It's our first child, so life's about to change really quickly here pretty soon. So we go in on Friday. Well, I guess when you guys listen to this, it'll be past that Friday, but we're going Friday, which will be the 19th, to get our final our scan, so more pictures. And then next time we see the baby will be when the baby comes out. So all right, so my news bits that I have for today are more, there's a theme. It's more so around Dave Filoni type stuff. So we'll focus on him for today. But the first thing I have, it's not even really news. It's just some interesting articles that I read, some interviews with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau on some of the content that they've recently brought out. So like Mandalorian, and then stuff that's yet to come, whether it be the Ahsoka show or the Dave Filoni movie that will be in production. But this first one was around Ahmed Best's role in The Mandalorian. So if you recall, Ahmed Best, he's the actor that plays Jar Jar Binks in the prequel series. And then I guess he was also in Jedi Temple Challenge, which he played Jedi Kelleran Beck in that. And then that role got reprised in the most recent season of The Mandalorian, as Jedi Kelleran Beck was the one that actually rescued Grogu from the Jedi Temple during Order 66. And so they were talking about Best's role in that and how the decision was made to bring him back and have him be the one that saves Grogu. But first they kind of just spoke about him being in that role, and Filoni says, "We love Ahmed, and he did such a great job. It was a real thrill for us to get him involved. We talked with him about it. We come up with these ideas and we think who might work with it. We make sure before we get too far to bring them into the process. So it's just like, here's who you're going to play. It's like, what do you think of this? We want you to be this person. What are your thoughts on it? We try to make it a real collaboration and think it's really key to the success of it. And this conversation, this was in an interview with Entertainment Weekly. And I think one of the interesting things about it was they didn't know that Ahmed Best had experience in martial arts. It was just something that they found out when they handed him a lightsaber and he was kind of playing around with it. And they're like, oh, okay, you kind of know what you're doing here. So Filoni says, I didn't know how much he knew about martial arts. And then he picks up a lightsaber and he's suddenly swinging it all around. And you're like, oh, okay. And then Favreau says, he studies arnis. He knows how to do double wielding. So that was like a happy coincidence. So all the more reason why this role was perfect for him. And he did a great job. Like, it was a fantastic portrayal of this Jedi, and you could see his emotion, and you could see like his dedication to that role. And I don't know, he did a fantastic job. And they're contemplating bringing him in within other pieces or something. So it's possible that Jedi Beck could be returning in another movie or episode of a certain season, like Mandalorian or something. That I think that would be awesome to see, because again, he did a great job. And they kind of go further into talking about bringing veteran Star Wars actors back. And Filoni says, you know, when you're a veteran of this thing, I think it hits you in probably a very different way. And he worked with George, which is very special. It's such a close-knit group of people now. And I think it's fun to have these people still included, like in Obi-Wan, you know, Hayden and Ewan. How great was it seeing them? It lives on. Star Wars keeps continuing in the best possible way. And I think this is important because I think, one, it shows Filoni's dedication to the Star Wars franchise and the franchise that George Lucas started. And I mean, there's such a knowledge base for Star Wars when you bring in veteran actors, especially ones that had worked with George Lucas, or in whether it's the original trilogy or the prequel trilogies or what have you. Like, they know what's going on with Star Wars. If they're a veteran actor, meaning they've played prominent roles in things. And Jar Jar Binks was a prominent role in the prequel trilogy, more so in Phantom Menace. And I do think that role was supposed to be more prominent than it turned out to be. I think it was one of those things that they might have gave in to fans' reception of the movies a little too early. I know Jar Jar Binks isn't necessarily everyone's favorite character, but that's no knock on Ahmed Best. I mean, he was portraying the character that he was given, and he did a really good job of portraying that character. But it was more that the character might not necessarily have fit in the movies. But I would argue against that, because one of the biggest characters in all of Star Wars is Yoda. And the first time we meet Yoda, he's kind of this crazy little kook in the middle of a jungle that Luke Skywalker just happens to come across. And, you know, he's trying to steal his food and his like little candle flashlight thing, and he's banging R2-D2 with a stick. So, I mean, that kind of character is normal in Star Wars, in my opinion. But I know people's issues with Jar Jar Binks kind of goes beyond that a little bit. But is Jar Jar one of my favorite characters? No, not necessarily. I think he was a little, what's the best way to put it? They just played too much into the type of character he was, the crazy, silly, like it was a little overboard. Let's put it that way. And that's probably more in the writing and like the script writing and everything, and more than the actor's portrayal of it. But what was I even? Oh, veterans with Star Wars. But I think what's also important about that is that means that that's still part of their plan, is to continue to bring back Star Wars actors and actresses. And I mean, I think in some of the more recent content that we've gotten, whether it's Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett or anything, the times that hit fans the most is typically when it revolves around bringing another character back. Like when Luke Skywalker showed up in the final episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian. Like, you talk to so many Star Wars fans that have been around, for a long time. They talk about, seeing Luke Skywalker in that role again for the first time since the original trilogy. Like, that hit people pretty hard. People got emotional. People were crying in reaction videos when they saw that, or not just in reaction videos, but just in general, people were crying when they saw that because it just took them back. So that's the kind of power that bringing back veteran actors and actresses can have. What's key though too is how you bring them back is done in a right way, correct way as well. Because if you don't do it right, then it can be pretty bad and probably upset the fan base. Example, Last Jedi, bring in Luke Skywalker and how his character was portrayed in that. Very controversial. So many fans, especially OT fans, which I love all Star Wars. I'm OT fan, prequel fan, sequel fan of all of it. But I grew up and I was first introduced with the original trilogy, so I'm a little more biased towards that. But people just look at Luke Skywalker's character in Last Jedi. I mean, like that, that's not what Luke Skywalker was to me. Like, I wouldn't picture him being that way. So if you don't bring him, if you don't do it correctly, it can have, repercussions. Granted, and disclaimer, and I will continue to say, it's not our story to tell. So if we get upset about things, if how someone else's story portrayal impacts us in a negative way, that's more on us. That's a more reflection of ourselves versus what's being brought to us, because it's not our story to tell. It's our story to be entertained by. Sure, we can have our opinions and we can say, we don't like this or we don't like that, or we do like this or we do like that. And I think that's all very important. But, long story short, it's not our story to tell. So we just got to move on past that. But again, it's always great when you bring in veteran actors and actresses. So seeing Ahmed Best come back, that was pretty cool. And it was a good a vindication for him. It was so frustrating. Like, Star Wars fans, we can be super passionate and sometimes way more passionate than we should be. And all the negative reaction that Ahmed Best took from his portrayal in Jar Jar Binks, again, totally unwarranted. We should never be spreading shame or hate in any way. But to give him the opportunity to come back and play such a great role as this Jedi who rescued Grogu, that was so awesome. I was definitely touched when I saw that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing that they did that. And I'm so happy for Ahmed Best and glad to have him back. So, and then the other thing I have as it pertains to Dave Filoni. So this came from Empire Magazine, and they were talking about Grand Admiral Thrawn, and he was asked about, like, what kind of role would Admiral Thrawn be in. I'm assuming it's probably taken in both Ahsoka and the movie that will be releasing, because I do believe that movie will have Thrawn, center of the bad guy, the villain in this. But so they were just asking him about the villain in the New Republic era. And Dave Filoni says, he's definitely the bad guy in the New Republic era, in my eyes. When Timothy Zahn wrote Heir to the Empire, Thrawn became this very iconic villain because he was different than anything we'd ever seen before. He wasn't a helmet wearing, lightsaber wielding bad guy, you know, and that I think that that's that's good. I love when we I mean, I love me my, you know, Sith or dark side villains and, you know, wielding those lightsabers, using the force, like love all that. But not everything has to be that. I think Andor is a great example of you can have villains. I mean, the Empire itself and have a great product that's released. Um he said he continues on, there's a lot to pull to make characters that are like Vader because it is so iconic. But the boldness that Tim had was to make somebody that wasn't like that didn't have those abilities, but could fight in different ways. In the words Star Wars, the war part of it, him being a Grand Admiral, a leader, a military strategist, a more IRT archetype, someone that will outthink you, out strategize you, that really resonated. He's a critical player in this time period. We're fortunate to have the character and fortunate to have Lars Mikkelsen playing him. So when I was reading this, it really took me back to the book Tarkin that centers around, obviously, Tarkin from the Galactic Empire era. You know, he's one of Darth Vader's right-hand man and men in A New Hope. Obviously played a prominent role in Rogue One, kind of orchestrating the building of, well, I mean, not orchestrating because that was spacing on his name from Rogue One, Krennic. But so Krennic was obviously kind of managing that, but Tarkin kind of stole stole his thunder and wanted the credit for it one way or another. But in the book Tarkin, it really plays into that military genius that he is. And it was that's probably one of my favorite books. And again, it was probably because it was stepping away from those characters and villains or heroes that we normally think about. And it really put like the Empire more on not a bad guy. I mean, obviously they're a bad guy and they kind of play in it here and there, but it was more just taking a view of the Empire as just a military force. Like if you were part of that military and you were wanting to, you know, read stories about it, this was great. A great book for that. So if you haven't read it, take the time. I shouldn't say I read it because I listened to it on, listened to the audiobook, and that was probably like 5 years ago that I did that. But yeah, recommend either give it a listen, give it a read. It'll be worth your time. And then when asked about Kathleen Kennedy asking him to direct his own film, meaning Dave Filoni, Filoni says, I don't assume anything. I don't think that I deserve anything. Kathy, upon seeing my work in the live action realm, was like, Dave, we have to have you do a movie. Little humble brag there. I love it. My goodness, a person like that telling you that this is an amazing thing. But I always look at myself and say, well, am I ready to do that? I appreciate that. And I think she would know, but it's got to be the right story. And it's got to be the right group of people backing you. A big reason why I felt confident going into live action at all was because Kathy was here. She's been a very big supporter of me all along the way. So it's a great moment, but I immediately think of the responsibility. I immediately think of the job that's going to entail. And I want to make sure I can do a good job. I mean, I know Kathleen Kennedy takes a lot of heat for some of the Star Wars content that we've gotten recently, or the direction of Star Wars. If people have their own opinions, that's totally fine. But I think it's important and to give her credit, you know, for recognizing this in Dave Filoni and giving him the opportunity to lead his own live action film. And I think it's even more important that Dave Filoni was asking those type of questions to himself. Like, is this something I'm ready for? And saying things like, you know, you have to make sure you surround yourself with the right people, and it's got to be the right job. So he's being humble here and making sure, like, is this something that he feel like he can do, and that would, something that the fans would love to see, or things like that. So his dedication to that is really key, and I think most people have all the confidence in the world in him that it will be a great film, and I know I'm one of them. The stories he's already building around it is really going to help play into this, and I can't wait to watch it. And that being said, he's still aware of whose universe it actually is, which is also very important. So he wants to stick to, the original purpose of Star Wars, the original idea of Star Wars. And he says, the first time I ever remember as a kid noting the term directed by was directed by George Lucas. That's the thing I never lose sight of. This is George's galaxy. I just tried to learn as much about it so I can execute it on it faithfully, and then hopefully expand and add new things with everyone else or everybody else. What a fun galaxy it is. So kudos to him, no matter what he does or what his visions are for Star Wars, he always keeps, the idea of George Lucas, at the forefront. It's always in his head. Is this something that George Lucas would want? And I think that's smart. Because that's what, built this franchise in the first place. That's what got us fans all here today. Whether, you're original trilogy fans, prequel fans, sequel trilogy fans, the shows, whatever started you in on all of this, George Lucas was at the start of it. So very cool to hear him say that. And the only other thing I have on this, and mind you, it's completely rumor. Who knows if it's true or not? There might be some weight to it, but I don't know. But the rumor is that there's already a title for Dave Filoni's movie. And that title being straight from Timothy Zahn's book, and the line dropped within the most recent season of The Mandalorian, so season 3. And that title is Heir to the Empire. And again, is that true? Like, where are they getting this information? I'm sure they've already talked about, the project team. I'm sure they've already talked about titles, and maybe something got leaked out. But yeah, I just thought it was pretty interesting. Again, don't know if it's true or not, but I wouldn't doubt it. Meaning, I shouldn't say I wouldn't doubt it. I would say it wouldn't shock me if the title was something like that, because it's, again, probably going to be centered around Thrawn as being the villain, and it's in that same time era from Timothy Zahn's book where the story is going to cover. And if you use the title Heir to the Empire, that's going to draw in a lot of interest, a lot of viewership, just for one thing alone, to see how close to the book it will be. Will it be close to the book? No, they might pull in elements of it, but I have a hard time believing it's going. I mean, some things, for obvious reasons, from Heir to the Empire book won't be in this, but I think they might pull from elements or overall or overarching themes or ideas and bring that into live action. So, and the book was already so well received too, that if you kind of follow certain elements of it, probably will be received pretty well through a movie. So not a bad idea to use Heir to the Empire as a film title for this film. Again, rumor, so don't hold any weight on that. We'll just have to wait and see when there actually is an announcement for the title. All right, well, I think that's all I got for the news bits. Again, for all you live listeners right now, if you have got any questions on any of that or comments, or even if you have further insight, drop it in the chat. Since I'm only going to be on for a short time, I'm just going to briefly speak to Visions a little bit. I did I? I've watched every single episode. I'm just trying to remember if I didn't watch it day of. I think I watched it next day and binged through the first 6 episodes, and then the next day I watched the final 3. And so just to call out the different episodes. So episode 1 is Sith. Episode 2 is Screecher's Reach. Episode 3 is In the Stars. Episode 4 is I Am Your Mother. Episode 5, Journey to Dark Head. Episode 6, The Spy Dancer. Episode 7, The Bandits of Golak. Episode 8, The Pit. And then episode 9, IU's Song. When I finished watching all of them, I did send out a tweet, and my tweet was: the art, fantastic; the emotion, great; the feeling, dark, and I love it; the stories, okay, some great; the culture tie-ins, A plus 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 plus. That, I think that was one thing that really stood out to me, is the cultural tie-ins that they brought to the episode. So the individual production companies, the art companies, bringing their element and their culture to it, that was cool. It made Star Wars seem very worldly, very expansive. It was great. The scores, hit or miss. Some were good, some were not so good. The lightsaber duels, amazing. And only one major gripe I have, but it might not be acceptable to say. So I'm not going to get into that. Maybe when I have some of the other guys to talk through with this, maybe I'll lead into that a little bit, but I don't know. And it's not really that major of a gripe, and it doesn't really impact the story or anything. Just something that I would have liked to have seen, but again, we're not going to get into that. So like I said, I started with the first 6 episodes, and my God, episodes 1 and 2 were amazing. I think I really liked episode 2. I think that one might have hit the hardest. Like that was creepy. And it was like something you really haven't seen. I'm trying to think if you have not much of it in Star Wars. And that was like this thriller, almost horror movie type situation. So in Screecher's Reach, there's this ghost in this cave, this rumored ghost, and this girl and 3 of her friends are going to explore this and confront it. And sure enough, well, I should say spoilers, there will be some spoilers in this conversation with Visions Volume 2. So you haven't watched them, and if you don't want to be spoiled by anything, press pause on this, go watch them, come back and listen. So there's your warning. So they go to this cave, and sure enough, there's this like ghost creature, and it has this terrible, scary, just, want to close your ears screech. If I heard that in a dark cave where I couldn't see anything, I would have been pissing my pants, man. Consider me Miles Davis, because holy cow, that was terrifying. But she confronts it, and it turns out to be a Sith, and she defeats the Sith. And come to find out, and I think if I recall, she has like this emblem or this necklace with a emblem on it, and I think it's also kind of like a communication device with what turns out to be a Sith, another Sith, that has spoken to her, communicated in some form with her, telling her to go essentially confront this. She did defeat it, and it was like a test. Long story short, it was to test her to become that Sith's apprentice. and the Sith asks her to come with her, and sure enough, she does. So the protagonist in this is clearly going to become a Sith. But wow, like the emotion in this one, the scores, the art, the feeling, the tone, all that was just phenomenal. And so this one was from production company was Cartoon Saloon, which is out of Ireland. And I loved the Irish accents in that. Like, that's such a great accent to listen to. I've been to Ireland. I went there for a field school, and one of my favorite things was just sitting in the pubs at the end of the day of the field school and just talking to the locals and listening to their accents and their stories. It was amazing. And this kind of took me back to that. But yeah, so that one A+. And the first one, Sith, also super, super fantastic. Very interesting take on the art style, very colorful. The art definitely played a major role in the tone of the episode, because some scenes there was like barely any color, and it, like a blank canvas, just you have a character in like white back, like again, that's setting the tone when she's like unsure of what she wants to do, or because I think she's creating like a paint mural and she's trying to decide. And so, and then the black tones, so she, like with her paint, it'd be colorful, and then it would change to black and represent like the dark side and the Sith. And then when things jump to color, it's, you know, portrayal of the light side, and she's like, she is encompassing both the light and the dark side, kind of like a gray Jedi type of a situation. And even her lightsaber, she has a dual sided lightsaber. One is yellow, one light is yellow, and the other one is red. So caught right in the middle there. And loved the lightsaber duel in it. Loved the villain in this. Like, that was a great, terrifying villain. And I don't know, it's just a fascinating story. And you even get this droid that sacrifices itself, and it did get rebuilt, so the droid is okay at the end. But when you see it, you know, when you're wondering at the time that it's being destroyed, your heart sinks. But yeah, so I think those two were my favorite episodes. The third one, In the Stars, was really good too. I should say the first one was from Algiri Studios out of Spain, and the third one is from Punk Robot out of Chile. And another really good episode. It's about two sisters who lose their mother, who is believed to be a Jedi, if I recall. And essentially the Empire has come to their planet, is destroying their planet, harvesting it. Is it the crystals? Are they harvesting? I believe they're harvesting the crystals. It was a couple of weeks ago that I watched this, and I've only seen them once, so I'll have to go back and watch all these again. But in the process of harvesting whatever, or gathering whatever resource, it's polluting the planet. They, you know, destroyed or killed off all the locals. These two sisters are the last ones, at least in this area, and they're spending their lives hiding from the Empire. And in this episode, at least the youngest sister doesn't want to go along with this anymore. Like, she wants to stand up to the Empire. She wants to continue what her mom tried to do in fighting and defeating the Empire. And so the youngest sister, kind of forces the hand and sneaks into the Imperial compound. The older sister has to come in and get her. And in the escaping portion of it, the sister runs off again to fight, to stand up to the Empire. And then, yeah, they are force sensitive, we find out, and they do bring down the Empire and kind of start the recovery of their planet. So, and then episode 4, I Am Your Mother. This is just a very much a fun, just kind of very light episode. This is from Aardman Animations out of the United Kingdom, and they are the ones that do Wallace and Gromit. So I love Wallace and Gromit in the first place, so I knew I was going to enjoy this one. Not the best in terms of like, Star Wars type story, but just again, just a fun, silly little episode that deals with a mother and her daughter. It's more centered around the daughter joining the Republic Flight School, trying to become a pilot, and they have this race, this annual race that takes place, and the daughter doesn't want to participate because she's embarrassed by her mother. But she ends up participating. The mom finds out about this and kind of forces the hand, and Valen tells her daughter that they're going to race using their little Junkard ship. But a great story about for younger audiences, your mom is always great, because we just had Mother's Day too. Like, your mother is always going to be there and is always going to be having your best interest at the forefront of their wants. And it was a really touching story. They end up winning the race, and the daughter goes from being embarrassed to being proud of her mom and family. And so yeah, a great story. The next one, Journey to Darkhead. This one was kind of like a dual character one, dual leads. You've got, if I recall, the girl was a mechanic, the boy was a Jedi, and I'm spacing on the overall mission of this. I might have to go back and look, which probably not a great thing that I can't remember. What does it say about the actual episode? But I remember the Sith comes in and the Jedi is kind of fighting off the Sith while the girl is doing her responsibilities. So maybe I'll save that one for after I watch it a second time. But I do remember the art was pretty cool. This one is out of Studio Mirko, out of South Korea. And then the next one, episode 6, Spy Dancer, which is Studio La Cachette out of France. This one was a pretty cool one. It's this family that they're in the dancing arts, performance arts. And they're doing this performance for stormtroopers in the Empire. And come to find out, the Empire had taken the son of the lead character in this, so the mom, and the Empire had taken their child when it was a baby away from them. And in this performance they're putting on, they're using it as a means to get at the Empire by planting tracking devices on them to, so they can spy on them and bring them down. And in the process of this performance and her flinging out all these trackers, she sees like an Imperial officer, or whether it's a Moff or, who knows, Admiral or something. She sees the guy as he's sitting there watching the performance and envisions the old Imperial officer that had took the child. So she kind of breaks cover by going in, almost killing that officer, but holds up at the last second. So you see like the spear like get right there and then it stops. And she kind of gives the officer a look and you're like, why did you stop? So at this moment, you're like, okay, what's going on here? I know you realize that it's not the officer that took your child, but you're kind of blowing your cover here, putting everyone in jeopardy. So something about that officer is important. So then, because of this, the Imperials and the stormtroopers start attacking the family, and they have to fend off and escape. And as they're escaping, the mom stays back, and the family's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she has to confront this guy, or she has to go back to this guy. Well, come to find out, that Imperial officer that was watching was the son that was taken, and she wants to bring him back. And she knows like this isn't the time to be able to do that. But so she gives him, I think it was a picture or something like that. Again, another emblem contraption. Who knows? I can't remember. But she puts a tracker on it. So it's a way for him to reconnect with his past and remember, and hopefully bring him back to them. And at the same time, it's now a tracking device to bring the family back to him as well. So cool little cliffhanger that they left on that. I really do wish on some of these they would do second episodes, but I don't know if they ever will. The Bandits of Golok, which was episode 7 by production company 88 Pictures out of India. Again, the cultural influence on this one I thought was amazing. This was one of my favorite cultural influenced ones. Not my favorite episode of these, but just I thought that aspect of it, bringing Star Wars to like an India setting in the Middle East and like the sandstorms and everything. It was like watching Aladdin out of Star Wars, and it was absolutely done very well. And so this one's about a boy and his younger sister, and his younger sister is force sensitive, and he's trying to keep her hidden from the Empire, and they're riding this train and there's stormtroopers on there, and she can't help herself but to use her force powers. She did it to grab a flute so she could play music. And then some of the people on the train saw what happened and started to confront her about it, and which was drawing attention. Stormtroopers find out, so then they go after her, and the brother's trying to protect her. And all of this leads them, they get off the train safely, and then they escape to a town. And this is where they get encountered by an inquisitor, and they get rescued essentially by an elder woman at that town who was a Jedi. And that Jedi defeats the Inquisitor, and they defeat all the stormtroopers around them. And the elder brings her down to what's probably like a Jedi temple or something underneath one of the pools or fountains and whatnot, and essentially is going to protect her and train her probably. So, and then the next one, episode 8, which is called The Pit, from the production company Dart Stio, which is out of Japan. And I think it looks like how they have it written here, it's associated with Lucasfilm. So it's Japan and the United States. But this one was pretty cool. The only thing is that it really reminded me of The Dark Knight Rises. So the story itself didn't seem very unique, but they still did a really good job with it. And so this boy, what the Empire does is they're mining kyber crystals, and they send these townspeople to go dig, like essentially just go dig. And they're digging this massive hole. And there's like a time lapse, and you see the hole get deeper. And then all of a sudden they reach the bottom of it. And I think they hit like rock bottom or something. And the Empire's like, okay, well, we've dug as far as we can go, so we're leaving. And there's no way for you guys to get out of this deep pit. And the pit is probably like, think of the pit from Dark Knight Rises. That's pretty much how deep and wide it was. And they're just going to be left there. So this boy is like, we've got to do something about it. Like, we've got to get out of here. We got to get to that town and let people know, and they can rescue us. And he's able to climb his way out of the hole. He goes to the town. He tells the townspeople what's going on, but the Empire catches him, and he brings him back, and they chuck him back into the pit. And in throwing him down, he dies. And his younger sister and family are there, and they all witness what happens. And they're like, well, that was our chance, and the Empire foiled it. But the younger sister still held on hope and like talking about how their light will show or something like that. And come to find out, the townspeople, what the boy said to them resonated, and they came out to see what happened, and they saw the people down there, and they stood up to the Empire, and the Empire's like, screw it, do what you guys want. We're getting out of here now. And long story short, the townspeople got the people out of the pit, and all was well. And then the last one, episode 9, which is IU's song, production company Triggerfish, and this was out of South Africa. This one was okay. Probably my I won't play favorites or least favorites, but me saying that probably gives you an indication of where I would put this one up along with the others. But I'm trying to recall all of this one. I know her song, so she's force sensitive, and like her skill is singing this song that essentially releases kyber crystals that have been corrupted with the dark side, so that turn red. She can purify kyber crystals with her song, and that's the role of these people in this episode. Like the townspeople, they purify, or these people, the main characters purify kyber crystals, and essentially making peace with the crystals and the planet. And she goes into this cave, I think it's a cave, where she finds all these corrupted kyber crystals, and because of that, it's not a good position for her. But she ends up singing the song, and it saves the day because it purifies them all. That was probably, for some of those, a horrible recap. Again, I've only watched them once, and that was 2 weeks ago. But I'm gonna watch them again, and when we have the other guys on, we'll talk through them as well. But overall, again, like for a majority of the stories, fantastic. Just as good as volume 1. I did find it interesting that, like I said before, these were a little more darker. I wouldn't say a focus on the dark side, but it just had more of a dark side feeling to a lot of these episodes, where the first one seemed to be a little bit more on the light side. And I think they were even playing into that with the color of the Visions title. So the first, not season, volume 1, the title is blue, and then volume 2, the title is red. And I think that's significant. So yeah, go give them a watch if you haven't already. You can pound through them in, I think, just a little over 2 hours, because they're, I think, between 17 and 22 minutes, I think, maybe less. So 9 episodes, that not too hard to push through. And hey, they're great, so you'll be greatly rewarded by it. Well, I think that's all I got for everyone today. I'm not going to go into the next matchup yet. We'll save that for when the other guys are around. So I'll just speak to our social media handles really quick. So you can find us on Twitter at DetBlockAA23pod, on Instagram at Detention_block_AA_23, and then our Facebook group and YouTube channels, Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Click to download those episodes on your podcast platform. Likes, follows, subscriptions, reviews, ratings, all of that. We greatly appreciate it. We appreciate your support. All of that helps us get our podcast name out there amongst all the other Star Wars podcasts. So we greatly appreciate anything that you all can do. And I did forget to mention, I did go this past weekend, which again was our Mother's Day. So happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Last Saturday went to the Milwaukee Brewers game, which happened to be their Star Wars theme night, and there was a handout which I was super stoked to get. So it was a Bob Uecker bobblehead, and it was him in a Jedi uniform or a Jedi outfit. So the bobblehead is Luke Skywalker bobblehead. And so my family had gotten tickets so it was my mom, dad, my brother, my niece, and myself. We went to the game. Both my brother's wife and my wife, they had to work that weekend, so couldn't arrange for them to be there. But so it was really fun, the five of us going to the game. My niece is turning 3 in about a month, and this was her first baseball game ever. So that was a real special moment. My brother and I, we grew up playing baseball. It was our sport, and I still play softball. It's still very much important to me. I watch the Brewers all the time. My brother watches the Brewers all the time. My parents watch the Brewers all the time. We're very much a baseball family. So having my niece go to her first baseball game, it was fun to experience, and she had a great time. There were only a couple of times where the loud noises and wasn't necessarily like the loud noise from the game, but it was the loud fan reaction to the game. So if there was like a home run hit and everyone's cheering, even I'm cheering, that loud noise kind of would startle her a little bit. And so every time something good would happen, she would like duck her head into my brother's arms or my mom's arms to protect her ears or to hide from the loud noises. So, but yeah, and they won. They won. So I guess my niece is just going to have to go to every Brewers game to ensure that they win every game. So either way, she's 1-0 as a Brewers fan, and I'm sure she will forever now be a Brewers fan. And we got her some like Brewer stuff. We got her a baseball. She got a cool certificate that says that was her first official Brewers game. But all that to say that my family had gotten the tickets, but for this bobblehead giveaway, they weren't just handing it out to the first, 30,000 fans or first 20,000 fans, what have you. This was, you had to buy a particular ticket package in order to get those. And the ticket package was for like the terrace level seats or, the cheap seat, nosebleed seats. You spend a little extra money on buying those tickets and you'll get the giveaway. So pretty strategic, a good way for the Brewers to sell more tickets than they normally would, or fill the seats that they might not necessarily fill on a Saturday like this. But against the Kansas City Royals, who aren't that good of a team. So what I did is I ended up on top of the tickets we already had, I bought 4 tickets extra so we could get 4 bobbleheads. My brother wanted one, and I wanted a few, so I bought the 3 others. And one thing I'm thinking of doing, so I've got this one. Oh, and here's the actual bobblehead. Pretty cool. So there's Bob Uecker in his little Jedi robe with his hood and his blue lightsaber. He's got an interesting, colorful tunic there, if you could see it. So I don't remember a Skywalker wearing such a colorful tunic under their robe, but Luke Skywalker definitely is, and it says Luke Skywalker down there. So I have 2 more. So one thing I'm doing is I'm going to have one out of the box. I'm going to keep one in the box. And then for the third one, I'm thinking about doing a giveaway. So if you think a giveaway would be a good or a fun idea or something that you would be interested in, let us know in our social media handles. Let us know on Twitter. Let us know on Instagram. Send us an email. Comment on this episode. Let us know your thoughts if you think that doing a giveaway would be something that you think would be interested in. So yeah, so that pretty much wraps everything up for today. I think how long have I been going? I've been going almost an hour. I wanted to keep it to a half an hour, but I start talking about Star Wars and I keep wanting to talk about Star Wars. So that's okay with me. But we'll wrap it up now. I need to get to bed. It's been a long couple of weeks. It's going to only get longer. As I mentioned before, when I first jumped on, that we're at 36 weeks for our child. So baby's going to come soon. I'm going to lose a lot more sleep. I'm already feel like I've already lost sleep. So if you couldn't tell, I'm completely exhausted. So I need to get to bed. We'll wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in late tonight. I guess it might not be late for everyone, but have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. And we will be back next week to bring you I think it's episode 75. I think we'll be on our 75th episode when we record next week. So that's a cool achievement. And we're that much closer to the big 100. So we'll have to do something special for the big 100. But again, I'm Mike here with Detention Black E23, a Star Wars podcast. Thanks again.